Hello, and welcome back to the Southern Bible Thumper channel. For this upload, we will be reading Exodus chapter 23. Thou shalt not raise a false report. Put not thine hand with the wicked to be an unrighteous witness. Thou shalt not follow a multitude to do evil, neither shalt thou speak in a cause to decline after many to wrest judgment. Neither shalt thou countenance a poor man in his cause. If thou meet thine enemy's ox or his ass going astray, thou shalt surely bring it back to him again. If thou see the ass of him that hateth thee, lying under his burden, and wouldest forbear to help him, thou shalt surely help with him. Thou shalt not wrest the judgment of thy poor in his cause. Keep thee far from a false matter, and the innocent and righteous slay thou not, for I will not justify the wicked. And thou shalt take no gift, for the gift blindeth the wise, and perverteth the words of the righteous. Also, thou shalt not oppress a stranger, for ye know the heart of a stranger, seeing ye were strangers in the land of Egypt. And 6 years thou shalt sow thy land, and shalt gather in the fruits thereof. But the 7th year thou shalt let it rest and lie still, that the poor of thy people may eat, and what they leave the beasts of the field shall eat. In like manner thou shalt deal with thy vineyard and with thy olive yard. 6 days thou shalt do thy work, and on the 7th day thou shalt rest, that thine ox and thine ass may rest, and the son of thy handmaid and the stranger may be refreshed. In all things that I have said unto you be circumspect, and make no mention of the name of other gods, neither let it be heard out of thy mouth. 3 times thou shalt keep a feast unto me in the year. Another dietary restriction, another commandment about food. Thou shalt keep the feast of unleavened bread. Thou shalt eat unleavened bread 7 days, as I commanded thee, in the time appointed of the month Abib. For in it thou camest out of Egypt, and none shall appear before me empty. And the feast of harvest, the first fruits of thy labors, which thou hast sown in the field, and the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of the year, when thou hast gathered in thy labors out of the field. 3 times in the year all thy males shall appear before the Lord God. Thou shalt not offer the blood of my sacrifice with leavened bread, neither shall the fat of my sacrifice remain until the morning. The first of the firstfruits of thy land thou shalt bring into the house of the Lord thy God. Thou shalt not seethe a kid in its mother's milk. Behold, I send an angel before thee, to keep thee in the way, and to bring thee into the place which I have prepared. Beware of him, and obey his voice. Provoke him not, for he will not pardon your transgressions, for my name is in him. But if thou shalt indeed obey his voice, and do all that I speak, then I will be an enemy unto thine enemies, and an adversary unto thine adversaries. For mine angel shall go before thee, and bring thee in unto the Amorites, and the Hittites, and the Perizzites, and the Canaanites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, and I will cut them off. Thou shalt not bow down to their gods, nor serve them, nor do after their works, but thou shalt utterly overthrow them, and quite break down their images. And ye shall serve the Lord your God, and he shall bless thy bread and thy water, and I will take sickness away from the midst of thee. There shall nothing cast their young, nor be barren in thy land. The number of thy days I will fulfill. I will send my fear before thee, and will destroy all the people to whom thou shalt come, and I will make all thine enemies turn their backs unto thee. And I will send hornets before thee, which shall drive out the Hivite, the Canaanite, and the Hittite from before thee. I will not drive them out from before thee in 1 year, lest the land become desolate, and the beasts of the field multiply against thee. By little and little I will drive them out from before thee, until thou be increased and inherit the land. And I will set thy bounds from the Red Sea, even unto the sea of the Philistines, and from the desert unto the river. For I will deliver the inhabitants of the land into your hand, and thou shalt drive them out before thee. Thou shalt make no covenant with them, nor with their gods. They shall not dwell in thy land, lest they make thee sin against me. For if thou serve their gods, it will surely be a snare unto thee. Summarizing Exodus chapter 23, Moses is still on the mountain and God is giving him more commands. Do not pass around false rumors. Do not help a guilty person by being a false witness. Do not follow the crowd to do evil. Do not side with the majority to prevent justice or to pervert justice. Do not show favoritism to a poor person in a lawsuit. If you catch your neighbor's ox or donkey going astray, help return it. If you see the donkey of someone you hate helpless under his load, help him. Do not deny justice to the poor. Have nothing to do with false charges. Do not put an innocent or honest person to death, because God does not justify the wicked. So don't slay an innocent or honest person. Don't slay their character with false charges. Don't keep, if you don't have evidence of something that someone's done, keep running it into the ground over and over again. Just for views, but you know, take no bribes. When the verse says take no gifts, it's saying take no bribes because it blinds the wise and it perverts the truth. Do not oppress a foreigner because you were once a foreigner in Egypt. He's talking to the Israelites. Sow your fields and harvest your crops for 6 years, and then let it rest and be unused on the 7th year. Let the poor and the animals take what's left. Do the same for your vineyard and your olive grove. Work 6 days. Everyone in the household is to rest on the 7th day. Pay attention to all of my instructions. Do not call on the names of any other gods. Don't speak their names. Celebrate with feast. This is chapter 23, verse 14. Celebrate me with a feast 3 times a year. So one of the things that I'm noticing about Christian messages, and we're not talking about how many times God regulates how we're supposed to be eating. And feast, food, it keeps coming up. It's coming up more than offerings. It's coming up more than money. It's coming up more than anything else. Again, the fall of man was all because of the wrong dietary choice. That is the first lesson in the Bible. It was the only rule in the Garden of Eden. Don't eat the wrong thing. And we ate the wrong thing. Or Adam and Eve ate the wrong thing. It impacted all of humanity based on one dietary choice. So I'm just going to keep bringing it up every time I see it, because if God keeps saying this in the Bible, if feast, your eating habits keeps coming up, then it's important. And we as Christians are supposed to be maintaining it. But again, celebrate me with feast. Feast is with food. You're supposed to do this 3 times a year. Verse 15, number 1, the feast of unleavened bread. It's even telling you what kind of bread he's so specific of what he wants you to eat and how long he wants you to eat that way for 7 days. And then don't appear before me empty-handed. Again, he doesn't mention money. He just says don't appear before me empty-handed. Doesn't say money. And we have money now, because when we talked about the slaves in the chapter 21, and we talked about slaves being killed by an ox, you're to pay 30 shekels of silver. So there's money, but God is not requiring money. He just said, don't appear before me empty-handed. So money is important. Not money. Your dietary, what you are choosing to eat, is even more important than what God asks you to appear before him with. What you eat is more important than what he asks you to give to him. He didn't even specify if you're supposed to give him money or animals or what. He just said, don't appear before me empty-handed, but eat specifically unleavened bread for 7 days. I'm just going to, every time I see something about food, I'm going to highlight it, because It's something that it's here for a reason if God keeps mentioning what he wants us to eat. Verse 16, the second time that we're supposed to celebrate God with feast, or the Israelites are supposed to celebrate God with feast. Because we haven't got through the whole Bible yet, don't know if we're Israelites or not. So verse 16, the second time we're supposed to celebrate is the Feast of the Harvest. He says to take the first fruit of your crops, of what you sow in your field. So take the best first fruits and offer that up to God. And the third time we're supposed to celebrate God with feast, or the Israelites, I'm sorry. The third time the Israelites is supposed to celebrate God with feast is the Feast of Ingathering at the end of the year, when gathering produce from the field. So 3 different times with feast, all to do with food, 3 times a year. And then it says in verse 17, 3 times men must appear before God. From what I read, I didn't see specifically what that was. So I interpreted verse 17 as being something associated with the feast, because with the Passover celebration, that was something about the young males having to appear before God, and male animals having to appear before God as an offering as well. But that is my interpretation. Verse 18, do not offer blood sacrifices to God with leavened bread, and do not leave the fat of the sacrifice until morning. 23 verse 19, bring your best first fruits to the house of God. Do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. The King James Version says don't seethe, and then some of the other versions say don't boil a young goat. Seethe means to churn, boil as in churn or boil, or stew. Churn, boil, or stew. That's what seethe means, and the King James Version uses the word seethe. So there were two, when I read this, don't cook a young goat in his mother's milk, because kid means a young goat. When I read that, I thought to myself, who would ever boil meat and milk? That sounds awful. Even for back then. I mean, I'm sure they had some other seasonings, but I Googled, even though I'm trying not to use any outsourced resources to make sense of this work, but I just couldn't get past it. I needed to know why in the world would someone want to boil at that, meat and milk. So one theory was that this was a practice among Canaanites for idol worship, to boil a goat in milk. Also, another thing that I saw was that Judaism. Judaism and Islam also have some similarities with Christianity. And Judaism, they interpreted this verse, chapter 23, verse 19, as you don't eat meat and dairy together. So you wouldn't eat a cheeseburger. And when I looked up some of the Islamic and Jude- Jewish, yeah, some of the Islamic and Jewish dietary restrictions, they reflect heavily on some of the restrictions that are reflected in the Old Testament. So I thought that was interesting, but again, that's not the point. But just here, chapter 23, verse 19, do not cook a young goat in its mother's milk. So however that is interpreted for, the reader, that's there. So if it's cooking an animal in milk, but honestly, that sounds horrible to me, but I could not understand why someone would even consider that. And both of these make sense. It could be something for idol worship or something that people did, or just the act of eating dairy and meat together. Moving on, verse 20. God communicates to Moses, I'm sending an angel to protect you and to lead you to safety. Pay attention to him. Do not defy him. He won't forgive your defiance because my name is in him, meaning that he's doing everything with God's permission. If you listen to my angel and do what I say, I'll be an enemy to your enemies, an adversary to your adversaries. My angel will lead you into the land of, and then it has six groups of people. It's it's chapter 23, verse 23. My angel will lead you into the land of the so and so and the so and so. It's six different groups of people. Don't bow down to their gods. Don't serve them. Don't imitate their evil practices. You must destroy them and break down their images. The King James Version says that Exodus chapter 23, verse 24, the King James Version uses the term images, but in some of the other translations of Exodus chapter 23, verse 24, some of the other translations use sacred pillars, memorial stones, or sacred stones. The term images that's used in the King James Version is defined as visual representation or a mental picture or impression. When we look at the term sacred pillars, the term sacred means highly valued and important. The word pillars means a firm, upright support for a superstructure. The word pillars also means a fundamental precept, and a precept means a command or a principle. So uh, we must, when, not we, I want to stop saying we because I haven't read the entire book, so I don't know if we are if uh, Christians are Israelites. Just right here, God is communicating to Moses. When the Israelites get into this new territory that God will give them favor in, when you get to this land and you mingle with these people, do not bow to their gods. Do not serve their gods. Do not imitate their evil practices. You must destroy them. Destroy their practices. Destroy their images, their visual representations, their mental pictures or impressions. You're supposed to destroy their highly valued and important superstructures. You're supposed to destroy their fundamental precepts, command, or principles. You're supposed to destroy them. That's not passive. That's not, oh, God will take care of it. God said you're supposed to destroy what these people value. You're supposed to actively destroy it. That was what God told the Israelites they were supposed to do when they entered into the new land. You shall serve the Lord. He will bless your bread and water. This is Exodus chapter 23, verse 25, where he again mentions food. You will serve the Lord. You shall serve the Lord. He will bless your bread and water. The next sentence, I will keep sickness away from you. Verse 26, you won't experience infertility or miscarriage. I will give you long, full lives. I want to highlight that again because this is directly related to food, diet, because God could have said, I'll keep sickness, infertility, and miscarriage. He could have said that when he said, verse 20, I'm sending an angel to protect you and lead you to safety. He could have then put, I'm going to lead you to safety, the angel lead you to safety, and protect you from sickness, infertility, and miscarriage. He could have put it up there. That sentence would have made sense and the idea would have been complete. But he didn't add that information until he said, he'll bless your bread and water. He will bless what you eat. And then once he blesses what you eat, you won't experience sickness, infertility, or miscarriage, and you'll have long, full lives. This is why I'm going to keep talking about food because this is mentioned so much so far. Anyone who's read the Bible, like, we would have seen this. Why are we not talking about how important food is? If God keeps commanding it, because God is speaking, God is talking and talking about food over and over and over again. This is two separate times. Verse 27, I will send my fear ahead of you. And in the Christian Standard Bible, Exodus chapter 23, verse 27, this is interpreted as, I'll cause the people to feel terror. I'll have your enemies retreat from you. Verse 28, I'll send hornets. And the New Living Translation uh, interprets Exodus chapter 23, verse 28. I'll send terror ahead of you. So the King James Version says hornets. The New Living Translation says terror. I'll send hornets. I'll send terror ahead of you to drive out the groups of people, the Hivites, Canaanites, Hittites. I'll drive them out in 1 year before the land becomes unsuitable for living and before animals take over. That's verse 29. Verse 30, little by little, I'll drive them out. Your population will be multiplied and you'll inherit the land. God gives the Israelites the boundary of the Red Sea and the desert, and will give them victory over the current inhabitants. Verse 32, God reemphasizes, don't make any agreements with these people or their gods. They can't dwell in your land, or else they'll make you sin against me. If you serve these gods, it will be a snare to you. A snare, that's the term used in the King James Version, the one that I like to read, but the New Living Translation interprets Exodus chapter 23, verse 33. It will be a trap of idolatry. So, trap in the New Living Translation, trap means a device for taking game or other animals to place in a restricted position or to stop or block. But when you read the King James Version, you read chapter 23, verse 33. If you serve their gods, it will be a snare to you. Snare also encompasses the term trap, but snare offers a deeper, more encompassing term, because snare also is defined as something that causes entanglement, difficulties, or impediment, something deceptively attractive, or to win over by artful or skillful maneuvers. So, snare is more than just a trap. Snare also uses deception, attractiveness to help influence someone to act against God. It's an encompassing term, which is why I like to read the Bible with a dictionary, thesaurus, and have BibleRef.com, where you have multiple translations available immediately, because you can see the difference. If you just went by the New Living Translation, trap of idolatry, it's, yes, it gives you a perspective or a translation, but when you read the King James Version and you compare it and you see that the word snare is more, it offers more detail and more color to the message, because snare also means something deceptively attractive. And God is saying in verse 33 that these people that you're about to conquer, they can't dwell in the land with you because they might use deceptive attractiveness to influence you to act against God. They might use artful or skillful maneuvers to get you to act against God. That's why they can't exist where you exist. I don't have any additional highlights. I just wanted to summarize, because with all of these laws and going over them, I really feel like I just feel like there's nothing else to highlight. So the next upload will be Exodus chapter 24. I look forward to doing it. Thank you so much for watching up until this point.